afternoon, everybody. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Beatrice Callahan. I'm the Sales Director for Digital Asset based out of Hong Kong, covering the APAC region. So I'd like to thank the Linux Foundation for having me today. And I guess to start off, what might be the best way about going about the presentation is introducing Digital Asset, introducing the Canton Network, and then explaining and showing a little bit more insight on how it is that we relate to the Linux Foundation, the Global Synchronized Foundation, and the work that it is that we're doing at the moment. So from a little bit of kind of contextual perspective, Digital Asset is a software providing company. We kind of create bespoke tailoring services around private networks, and that was really a phase one approach. So Digital Asset is, if you think about it from kind of an overview perspective, we have about 3 different kind of services and products. We have DAML, what's known as our Digital Asset Modeling Language, this is our own proprietary smart contract language. Then we have Canton, which is essentially enterprise blockchain. And then we have the Canton Network, which is a kind of a community and is a community effort across many of the different people working within the Global Synchronized Foundation and the Linux Foundation. So I think what's important before we introduce the relevance of open source and how this is at the backbone of the Canton Network, it's important to touch on what it is that Canton has been focusing on and Digital Asset has been focusing on. So essentially what it is that we've been doing and focusing over the last 3 years is to create these private, controlled enterprise blockchains for different clients. Here in Asia, we're focusing on some of our key clients consisting of the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, Hong Kong Jockey Club, and what it is that we really notice is that these clients are really interested, and their number one kind of priority is making sure that privacy remains at the core of what it is that they do. So having control, having privacy, this is something that cannot be sacrificed at the cost of anything. So we've really spent the last few years on creating these smaller kind of private networks that enable this. So if you look at changing the way existing processes were done, and then implementing them with a new technology that enables faster, seamless, multi-party work automation. I'll take the example of the Hong Kong Jockey Club. Hong Kong Jockey Club wants to build a large distributed testing platform. However, what's really important is making sure that the clients across the global sphere are not giving up any of their confidential information. And this has enabled us across all of the different topics that we're looking at, all of the different infrastructure that we're looking at, this ability to create real value for our clients. So you can see here that the Canton Network has a total of 3.6 trillion active, which is actually significantly larger than many of the other Canton networks globally. This is a network of networks that's bringing together all of the real world value that we see. And it's all because of the privacy and composability on the Canton Network, which is enabling large volumes already within the network subnets. So what does that mean? That really means it's creating these kind of mini nets, these mini networks where we're able to really see and evaluate this real world value, and then creating them and bringing them into a much larger network of networks. So this is what it is that is the core of this presentation today. Is having this open source that is the heart of the Canton Network within the growth of what it is that we've been working and investing on in the market previously. So one of the things that's key to note here is that delivering tangible benefits in production for end-to-end tokenization of financial and real-world assets is what's enabled us to get to this stage and what will remain at the forefront of the focus for the Global Synchronized Foundation, Linux Foundation, Canton, and essentially creating this decentralized network. So if you want to have some examples of the things we've been focusing on previously, you'll see that in some of our use cases we've been able to take existing processes from T+5 to T0, so most notably the Hong Kong Stock Exchange. So the Hong Kong Stock Exchange has been working with us for quite a few years to implement what's known as Project Synapse. Project Synapse is this northbound stock. So if you think about international investors, you think about investors in the US, in the UK, globally, who want to invest in Chinese stocks. Historically, you have to go through the Hong Kong Stock Exchange to be able to do this. Given time zone changes, given complex technology, there has been limitations on the speed in which you can do this, and that inherently has created things like credit risk, which is going to reduce liquidity, reduce volumes, and essentially kind of prevent a little bit more of that scalability that we really want to see in the market, that liquidity, which will drive things to the forefront going forward. So what we've been able to do using digital asset technology and Canton is essentially automate a pre-existing network. So if you think about all of the different components within this multi-party workflow, such as a global custodian, a local custodian, a broker-dealer, an exchange, a clearinghouse, etc. This was previously, if you think of a tag team and a relay race, it was very linear. What I do, I need to pass to you, the trade then goes to party number 3, then to party number 4. Across the global time frame, this was meaning, and China's kind of T+0 already, means that there was only really a 3-hour settlement period in which we were able to get these benefits. What we've been able to do with technology is turn this into a little bit more of a circular kind of workflow. So rather than going from party A to party B to party C, you could go from party A to party B to party D to F, back to C, and essentially speed up the process without having to sacrifice any of the privacy control or any of the issues that remain very, very kind of core to the business functionalities. So all of these different examples can highlight here how we've been working with different tokenized bonds, launched both on Canton and Canton Network. So if you think about large institutions or large banks, Goldman Sachs, HSBC, again, the same as the Hong Kong Jockey Club, privacy and control of their clients' data and clients' information remains at the forefront. So it's the open source of double smart contracts of the Canton Network that remains at the core. Then you have to think about how is it that we are able to take the trust that these clients have in us, able to take the trust in these regulated institutions, that to be able to function, to be able to kind of grow and scale from a technology perspective, need to keep that regulatory oversight at the heart of what it is that they do. How is it that we can grow that to a much kind of larger network perspective? So if you think about all of these small kind of micro islands or like island nets, how can you create a larger network of networks? How can you create these bridges and sea alongside the islands to be able to create this really kind of decentralized, distributed, and scalable kind of DLT practice globally? And so this is really where the kind of ethos of what it is that we're doing with the Global Synchronizer Foundation, the Linux Foundation, and some of our other market participants, what it is that we are able to implement as a result of looking from a much more kind of collaborative and collective perspective. So one of the challenges was when we started looking at, okay, there are limitations to just being these private subnets. There are limitations to being these small blockchain islands to be able to achieve this kind of community global uptake of DLT, this scalability aspect, this performance aspect, and how do you make sure that the institutions and the ecosystem is growing as a whole? It's not just one versus another. It's not a zero-sum game. So this is really where the Global Synchronizer Foundation comes about, the Linux Foundation, etc. So how is it that we can do that? How do we go from multiple different subnets into one network of networks? To make sure that that is possible, we had to really look at what it is from a governance perspective. It's this decentralized aspect. So making sure that not one kind of entity within this group of 30 entities that we have at the moment has all the power, has all the oversight, has all the governance, has all the ability to transact the code, to read the code. That is actually distributed across multiple different entities. That being said, digital asset does not have that oversight. It is very much part of all the different members. When you look at the Canton Network, you've got everything from kind of validator nodes, participant nodes, etc. It's a very distributed kind of framework, and that is really the core of how we believe that we will be able to see this large-scale adoption of DLT across all the industries. So this is what makes Canton Network an interoperable network of networks. So I guess the real foundations and the ethos of it are that privacy that we saw with the smaller subnets, the control of which the parties need to remain and be at the forefront of. That is the control over their private data, control over who sees what, that role of granular kind of least privilege that will enable them to keep their clients' data confidential. And then more importantly now, which is that kind of phase 2 approach, is the interoperability. All of this is not possible unless you're able to grow and be scalable and essentially bring in the communication and collaboration across all of the different networks. So how do we do that? So again, as we said here, traditionally, or in the past, we've seen that there's always been a trade-off. If you've got privacy and control, the trade-off is interoperability. If you've got interoperability and control, the trade-off is privacy. So that's really what we've been focusing on doing with the other partners across the Global Synchronizer Foundation, with the Linux Foundation, with Splice Lab. It's that open source that enables this decentralized governance, that enables the growth of the Canton Network, Global Synchronizer Foundation, and all of the different elements that enable the applications run on the Canton Network to benefit from privacy, control, and interoperability. So essentially, this is what it looks like at the moment. This is what we've been able to bring together. So when I speak about and use the example of these little micro islands or these subnets, these are all the different companies that you can see here. I used the example of Hong Kong Stock Exchange and Project Synapse. You can see over here HSBC Project Orion, which is a bond tokenization platform. All of these different kind of subnets together can go into the Canton Network and create these applications where you've got this seamless synchronization of transfer across all of the different subnet parties. That you're able to create this global network of applications that bring real world value to the parties. So you've got everything from market data services, corporate banking and treasury services, post-trade and security services, clearing and settlement. As we said, if you think about clearing and settlement from a real world perspective, we've already got Project Synapse in the works. We're already seeing the growth in liquidity going through exchanges if you have this ability to reduce the kind of credit risk and the speed in which the atomic settlement is going forward. If you're able to get all of this with the security that there will be no loss of data, you're really able to see a growth. So we know that the benefits that we're bringing to one party, we're actually able to bring across multiple different parties, looking at growing those applications. So how is it that we're going to bring people on board to do this? If you look at kind of the instance of Splice and what that was, it meant that it was this fully open sourced implementation of the decentralized Canton synchronizer. So it's this synchronizer across all of these different Canton networks and Global Synchronizer Foundation parties that bring the key core of what it is that we do, this code, the governance, the nature. It's all decentralized apps implementing network incentives and governance to make sure that everyone is benefiting from driving this forward. So, first instance of Splice in the wild is the global synchronizer for the Canton Network. So again, as we mentioned in the slide before, this is the Canton Network. This is what it looks like. And it really is the first instance of Splice in the wild. It's that collaboration across the different parties with the Global Synchronizer Foundation. And as you can see here on the side of the screen, there's a sample list of members, including Seven Ridge, Broadridge, Calistone, Digital Asset, Equilend. What you're really able to see, Intellect TV, what you're able to see is taking that subnet benefits and real world value that each of these different companies can bring here and then take it to a much larger level. So at that, I will let anyone. So Amulet again is the app provider and the asset issuer. So what we can see here is that kind of value token, that utility token that will continue to bring traffic to the network. And it's really the tokenomics for network incentives. So if anyone else would like to learn anything more about the tokenomics and the white paper of the Global Synchronizer Foundation and the Canton Network, I invite you to have a further look. And please do let us know if there are any questions. Thank you so much.